Another day, another story. In the quaint town of Viridia, amidst the swirling winds of political unrest and nationalistic fervor, lived a young woman named Emily. With her fiery red hair and a spirit that matched, she was a force to be reckoned with. Emily possessed a sharp mind, quick wit, and an unwavering sense of justice. Little did she know that her life was about to take a most unexpected turn. Viridia, a nation on the brink of revolution, was a place where loyalties were tested and identities were blurred. It was against this backdrop that Emily found herself unwittingly caught in a web of complications and mistaken identities. One sunny afternoon, as Emily strolled through the bustling streets of Viridia, she noticed a group of individuals gathered in the town square. They were waving flags, chanting slogans, and exuding an air of fervent nationalism. Curiosity piqued, Emily approached the group, eager to understand the cause of their enthusiasm. Before she could utter a word, a man with a bushy mustache and a twinkle in his eye turned to her and exclaimed, "Ah, there she is. Our esteemed leader has arrived." Emily's eyes widened in confusion as she looked around, realizing that the man was referring to her. "I'm sorry, sir, but I think you've mistaken me for someone else," she protested, trying to free herself from the man's grasp. "Nonsense," the man declared, his grip tightening. "You are Emily, the fearless nationalist leader we have been waiting for. The one who will lead us to victory." Emily's protests fell on deaf ears as the nationalists surrounded her, their enthusiasm growing by the second. They spoke of grand plans and heroic deeds, all of which Emily had no knowledge of. Yet, despite her insistence on her true identity, the nationalists were convinced that she was their long-awaited leader. As the days went by, Emily found herself entangled in the nationalist group's activities. She attended secret meetings, gave impassioned speeches, and even found herself leading marches through the streets of Viridia. All the while, she couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of her situation. In one particularly amusing incident, Emily was tasked with designing a new flag for the nationalist cause. Armed with a paintbrush and a canvas, she set to work, only to find herself creating a flag that resembled a dancing chicken rather than a symbol of national pride. The nationalists, oblivious to the comical nature of the flag, hailed it as a stroke of genius, much to Emily's amusement. As Emily continued to navigate the complexities of the nationalist group, she found herself questioning her own beliefs and allegiances. She couldn't help but notice the contradictions and absurdities that permeated their cause. The nationalists spoke of unity and loyalty, yet their actions often seemed to contradict these ideals. In the midst of it all, Emily's sense of justice remained unwavering. She saw the divisions and tensions within Viridia and felt compelled to bridge the gaps, to find a way for people to come together rather than be torn apart by blind nationalism. And so, as Emily tried to extricate herself from the nationalist group, she did so with a newfound determination. She would use her wit and intelligence to navigate the treacherous waters of mistaken identity, all the while questioning the true meaning of loyalty and patriotism. Little did she know that her journey would lead her to unexpected revelations and personal growth. But for now, as Emily found herself in the midst of a group of nationalists who mistook her for their leader, she couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Emily's involvement in the nationalist group grew deeper with each passing day. What had started as a case of mistaken identity had now become a tangled web of alliances and secrets. As she found herself drawn further into the group's plans, Emily couldn't help but question her own beliefs and the consequences of her actions. Within the group, Emily met a cast of characters, each with their own motivations and hidden agendas. There was Mr. Jenkins, a fiery orator with a penchant for dramatic speeches. He had a way of riling up the crowd and inspiring them with his passionate words. Then there was Mrs. Thompson, a formidable woman with a sharp wit and a knack for organizing protests. She was the driving force behind the group's demonstrations and rallies. As the days went by, Emily became privy to the group's plans for a major demonstration. They were planning to march through the streets of Viridia, demanding change and rallying the people to their cause. The pressure on Emily to play her part in the demonstration was immense. The nationalists saw her as a symbol of hope, a figurehead for their movement. They believed that her involvement would lend legitimacy to their cause. But deep down, Emily was torn. She had never considered herself a nationalist, and the more she learned about the group's beliefs, the more she questioned their validity. She couldn't help but see the contradictions and absurdities in their rhetoric. How could they claim to fight for the rights of the people while excluding certain groups based on their ethnicity or social status? In the midst of her internal conflict, Emily found herself in a series of humorous situations. One day, as she was trying to maintain her cover within the group, she accidentally spilled ink all over Mr. Jenkins' speech notes. The resulting chaos and frantic attempts to salvage the ruined pages had everyone in stitches. It was a moment of levity amidst the seriousness of their cause. Another time, Emily found herself in a heated argument with Mrs. Thompson over the best way to organize the upcoming demonstration. Their disagreement escalated into a shouting match, with both women passionately defending their positions. The absurdity of the situation struck Emily, and she couldn't help but burst into laughter. The tension in the room dissipated, and even Mrs. Thompson couldn't help but crack a smile. But as the day of the demonstration drew nearer, Emily knew she couldn't continue to play this double role. She had to make a decision. She had to choose where her true loyalties lay. And so, with a heavy heart, she made the difficult choice to distance herself from the group. On the day of the demonstration, Emily watched from a distance as the nationalists took to the streets. She saw the passion and determination in their eyes, but she also saw the blind fervor that had consumed them. It was then that she realized the dangers of blind nationalism, the consequences of unquestioning loyalty. As the demonstration unfolded, unexpected consequences and revelations emerged. Emily's true identity was finally revealed, causing shock and confusion among the nationalists. Their reactions ranged from disbelief to anger, and their allegiances began to shift. The group, once united under a common cause, was now fractured and divided. In that moment, Emily felt a sense of relief and liberation. She had escaped the clutches of mistaken identity and had found her own voice. She had learned the importance of critical thinking, empathy, and the power of individual agency. She had come to understand that true loyalty and patriotism were not blind adherence to a cause, but rather a nuanced understanding of one's own values and the well-being of all. As the dust settled and the streets emptied, Emily took a moment to reflect on her journey. She had been caught in a web of complications and mistaken loyalties, but she had emerged stronger and wiser. And as she looked out at the city she called home, she couldn't help but wonder how many others were still trapped in the grip of blind nationalism, and what it would take for them to find their way out. The demonstration had taken place, and the aftermath was a whirlwind of unexpected consequences and revelations. Emily's true identity had finally been revealed, causing shock and confusion among the nationalists who had mistaken her for someone else. The group, once united under a common cause, was now fractured and divided. As the news of Emily's true identity spread through the nationalist ranks, reactions varied. Some nationalists refused to believe it, clinging to their mistaken belief that she was the figurehead they had thought her to be. Others were angry and felt betrayed, their trust shattered by the revelation. And then there were those who saw this as an opportunity to reassess their own beliefs and allegiances. Emily, standing at the center of this chaos, felt a mix of emotions. Relief washed over her as she shed the burden of mistaken identity, but there was also a sense of guilt for the role she had unwittingly played in the group's plans. She had never intended to deceive them, but circumstances had led her down this path. In the midst of the turmoil, Emily's eyes were opened to the absurdity and dangers of blind nationalism. She had witnessed firsthand how it could lead people to overlook their own values and blindly follow a cause. She had seen the exclusion and prejudice that came with it, and she couldn't help but question the validity of such beliefs. With newfound clarity, Emily made the decision to distance herself from the nationalist group. She realized that true loyalty and patriotism were not about blindly following a cause, but rather about critically examining one's own values and working towards the well-being of all. She had learned the importance of empathy and the power of individual agency. As the nationalists grappled with the revelation and their shifting allegiances, Emily watched from a distance. She saw some members leave the group, disillusioned by the lies they had been fed. Others remained, clinging to their beliefs despite the evidence before them. And there were those who were still unsure, torn between their loyalty to the cause and their newfound doubts. In the days that followed, Emily reflected on her journey and the lessons she had learned. She had been caught in a web of mistaken loyalties and had emerged stronger and wiser. She had come to understand that true loyalty and patriotism were not about blind adherence to a cause, but rather about critically examining one's own beliefs and working towards a better future. As she walked through the streets of Viridia, she couldn't help but wonder how many others were still trapped in the grip of blind nationalism. How many were unable or unwilling to question the beliefs they held dear? And what would it take for them to find their way out? Emily knew that change wouldn't come easily. It would require open minds and a willingness to challenge long-held beliefs. But she also knew that change was possible. She had seen it within herself and witnessed it in the shifting allegiances of the nationalists. With a renewed sense of purpose, Emily vowed to continue her own personal growth and to encourage others to question the beliefs that held them captive. She would use her own experiences to shed light on the dangers of blind nationalism and the importance of critical thinking. As she looked out at the city she called home, Emily felt a sense of hope. She knew that the journey towards a more nuanced understanding of loyalty and patriotism would be long and challenging, but she was ready to face it head-on. And as she took her first steps towards this new chapter in her life, she couldn't help but wonder what other revelations and personal growth lay ahead. Thanks for watching.